Okay, so it's the 3rd of January, and I have just finished watching the third and supposedly final episode of the 2020 version of the BBC Dracula. So, a word of warning, in order to give my full thoughts on this, I am going to be spoiling quite a lot of this. So, if you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, then I suggest that you just go watch it. It's available now. All episodes are available on BBC iPlayer. If you're in America, I imagine it'll probably be on BritBox. Yeah, for catch up or whatever you have over there. Anyway, so yeah, this series, to be honest, the only real reason I decided to give this version of Dracula a watch is it's because it was written and created by Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat, who general audience, and this was also in the marketing, know that they were also they showrunners that for Sherlock, and obviously so my other viewers will obviously know they were also writers on Doctor Who for over a decade. So yeah, this is their next show, Dracula, and it's in the same format that Sherlock was in, aka their 3 90-minute episodes. Or, as you can think of it, 3 movies, if you like. But yeah, there's a few things to talk about with this. First of all is the setting. So, the way that the first 2 episodes are set were in 1897. And the first episode, to be honest, reminds me of a lot of a Hammer horror Dracula film, to be honest, because we have this character called Jonathan, who we see in this hospital, and two nuns are talking to him about how he ended up escaping, supposedly, Dracula. And we can see from the look of him, he's clearly being drained. He is obviously being, drained of his blood. And actually, the look of him kind of reminding me a cross between Nosferatu and Voldemort. Yeah. And, yeah, to be honest, the first episode is kind of your typical Dracula story in most ways, to be honest. And it feels like it was an hour-long episode stretched out to 90 minutes, because, to be honest, the first 45 minutes, or thereabouts, 45 minutes to an hour, are all about this character, telling a story on how he came to Dracula's castle and then was slowly, drained of all his life, until Dracula, finally finished him off. Because when we see Dracula at the start of this film episode series, he is, he's a very old man. And he drains people in that, obviously, to preserve his immortality. So we do see that, and there is some, nice creepy imagery, because we get to see some of the other undead victims. And I will say, the practical effects are pretty good, actually. Yeah, the practical effects are pretty good. And also, like the image I was showing on screen, I do like... I'm not sure whether this is a practical effect or not, but the red eyes... And that there's a few scenes where it reminds me of Christopher Lee as Dracula. Yeah, so there is definitely, a lot of Hammer horror references and that, but also probably to the Bela Lugosi version as well, and that. So there's a few little nods to that. But the first episode is mainly set in a castle. But something this whole series tries to, have an explanation for is, why is Dracula afraid of the cross? Why can he not, go into the sunlight? Why must he be invited into someone's home? It kind of tries to explain, where these myths that become fact and that came from. Why is this a thing? And it's finally explained at the end of the third episode, which I'll spoil for you all later on to talk about. But yeah, to be honest, the first episode, it's alright. Though it does feel like it does drag a little bit in places. I did quite like the slow pace of the castle, that was fine, but the ending just seemed to go on a bit further, where Dracula tracks down this sort of hospital nun sanctuary place and then kills everyone. But to be honest, it feels like it just goes on far, far too long at the end. It feels like the ending, should have been a lot more dramatic, a lot quicker in, Dracula's pursuit, because we're spending all this time having a slow build up, and then it has, a massive quick, where wolves and that attack and everything, and then it kind of stops and slows down again, and it kind of feels like, oh, we've got to stretch this out to fill a 90 minutes episode. And we'll talk about the ending, because each episode leads into the next. So the ending of this one is that one of the nuns is revealed to be Van Helsing. So she is a Van Helsing. And basically, she allows Dracula to drink her blood in order to save the only other nun that is left. However, Dracula doesn't just drink her blood and then done over with. Actually, Dracula, if he chooses to, can actually make it last. So he can either just, kill someone, drink their blood, and then it's done, or he can prolong it, actually, and have a very slow death, which for some reason involves their fingernails falling off. And yes, I'm not joking. Like the rest of it, it just seems fine, but for some reason, fingernails are always the first to go, which is really, really weird, quite frankly. The second episode is entirely set upon a ship that is heading to England, because Dracula wants to go to England because of all the people there to kill, and drink their blood. And whenever Dracula drinks blood, he also gains the knowledge that person had. For example, in the second episode, a woman there who is speaking German, Dracula, wants to learn German, so he goes and kills one of the crewmates who speaks German in order to fluently speak German. So that was something interesting, the fact that whoever, Dracula kills, and that's the absorption of bloods. The second episode actually felt less actually like a Hammer Dracula, and actually it felt a lot more like an Agatha Christie murder mystery, except you know who the culprit is, because it's Dracula, and you obviously see it, which is a bit odd, because the way it plays out, it literally does play out like a murder mystery, but it shows the murders being, actually happening. So then there's no mystery on who it is. And to be honest, I think the second episode probably would have worked better if it was just a standalone, sort of film or one-off special where you didn't know it was Dracula, or you didn't know, who it was, and then it's revealed later on. I think that would have been, where that episode could have worked better, but regardless, I did enjoy the second episode more than the first, mainly also because of the cast as well. The second episode has a larger cast, so there's a lot more interaction and a lot more things going on in the second episode. The first one is a character piece, which is enjoyable, but it does have that thing where it feels like it just goes on and on and on for that final act, whereas this one is actually much better structured, actually. It doesn't feel like it's dragging as much towards the end as previous episodes were. So, at the end of the second episode, basically Van Helsing, who is revealed to have been kept on the ship by Dracula, who is, again, just, draining her bit by bit, and she's dying and doesn't have long left to live, decides to blow up the ship, a hole in the ship so the ship will sink, and also manages to burn Dracula as well. Now, Van Helsing, in this episode, dies. She drowns at sea, and Dracula is forced to retreat to a wooden box that houses his soil. It's also established in this that he must sleep wherever his soil is. So he can only sleep in his native soil. Then Dracula, at the end of the episode, breaks out the coffin and washes ashore to England. However, in the cliffhanger, it's revealed that this is modern day England, and it is established that it is 2020. Which is interesting because I remember in 2017, when being interviewed, Stephen Moffat was actually asked, would he be doing to Dracula what he did to Sherlock, where it would be set in modern day, and he said no to this, it would be set in the 1800s. However, clearly, this is not the case, and it was to keep that, I'm assuming it was to keep that, surprise ending to the second episode's cliffhanger. And it's revealed that, and basically Dracula's immediately cornered by people with guns and a helicopter and cars, and the person in charge of them is a descendant of Van Helsing. Yeah. So, the third episode, to be honest, almost feels completely like a different show. Because it's almost completely disjointed from the other two episodes. The first two episodes kind of feel like a long two-parter. It feels like a 3-hour piece, where the third episode kind of feels like it's starting over again, actually. It almost feels like a pilot. I mean, there's obviously still references to the first two episodes and things that do tie in a little bit. Though, to be honest, if you only watched the third episode of this series, then, to be honest, you could watch it perfectly fine and understand everything that is going on. Which is a bit odd, that the third episode really feels like the first episode of not really a brand new series, but maybe like a spin-off series or a sequel series. Because obviously, set in modern day, we've got a completely brand new cast as well. Mark Gatiss himself actually shows up in this episode, playing Renfield, who in this universe, actually, the Renfields are lawyers. They are Dracula's lawyers, who have been his lawyers for over 100 years, since, I think they say since 1896, I think. Dracula's had lawyers, which is why Dracula is basically freed from this medical facility, which is dedicated to stopping Dracula. Yeah, and also it's also revealed that this version of Van Helsing in modern day has cancer. So she is dying, which is why Dracula can't drink her blood, because if he does, well, basically, the first time he attempts this, he throws up, because essentially cancer blood is poisonous to him. Okay. Yeah. To be honest, the third episode, I don't know. The first half of it kind of just feels like it forgets about Dracula for a bit, as we have to focus on new characters. So to be honest, Dracula's sort of arc of things doesn't really feel important in the first half, where we follow this girl around who is a slut. She is a slut. She basically knows that she's a pretty girl, and will basically have one night stands with basically any guy she fancies, even on her own wedding night. She does this, but she willingly lets Dracula drink her blood, and he does the same thing again, where he slowly, drinks her bit by bit by bit, because she enjoys it. She enjoys it because whenever Dracula is drinking someone's blood, they have this sort of mind experience or something. I don't know. In the second episode, we see that, Van Helsing having a blood drink, she actually plays chess with Dracula in this, I don't know, is it supposed to be a Sherlocky mind pass or something? It's never fully explained. And we'll have this all in the third episode as well. But yeah, it's also revealed that some people just randomly become undead when they die. And will just stay conscious. It doesn't happen to everyone, but it happens to some people that they'll just stay conscious after they're dead, which is why Dracula warns, excuse me, the person he's drinking in the blood of, do not get cremated. And oh boy, that is a Stephen Moffat line. I was getting some Dark Water vibes there, where it's just like, no, you'll be conscious during being cremated, even though you'll be dead, and it'll hurt. Yeah, Dark Water vibes all around with that line there. And obviously, eventually Dracula does finish her off, and she is cremated, but somehow manages to break out. Yeah, so I'm guessing when you become undead, you also gain super strength, because there's another guy that Dracula kills that is put in a fridge when they're dead, and ropes guy around, but he still manages to, push his hand out. I don't know how it works, to be honest. But yeah, she's burned, partially cremated, though, there's still a fair bit of her left, but she is badly burnt. There's bits of bones and that showing. And again, the practical effects on it do look pretty good. And the interesting thing that's going with reflections here is that rather than Dracula just flat out not having a reflection, he does, but the reflection doesn't show him as he is when he looks at himself. It shows him more like as he truly is, as a really, aged old man. Like we saw at the beginning of this series. And Lucy, just remember the name, the character gets cremated, still sees herself as beautiful. She doesn't see herself as she truly is. Until she takes a selfie. And when she takes a selfie, she sees herself as she truly is. And, finally starts to break down. And you think all that vanity is in there. And she does get, a mercy kill, because sneaking people in this, that does finally, sort of put them to rest. Though, to be honest, I kind of felt she deserved it. To be honest, they treat it like, oh yeah, I know, I'm so sorry for everything. But the thing is, she knew what was going to happen. Dracula even told her what was going to happen. Yet, she just let it happen. She wanted it to happen. And she broke the hearts of probably many, many people, the way she acted. So in the end, I didn't feel sorry for her at all. In fact, I just felt, actually, she got exactly what she deserved. And at the end, she also got an easy way out of it as well. But Dracula also gives a sample of his blood to the modern day Van Helsing, who actually drinks it, because drinking the blood is the way to read blood, and because of this she's able to have the memories and a sort of interaction with her ancestor. And it's here we discover why Dracula can't, go in the sun or whatever. Because Van Helsing then opens the drapers and lets the sunlight in, and it casts upon Dracula, and you think for a second, oh, he's going to turn to dust, this is how it ends, but no, Dracula's perfectly fine. And it's revealed that all of the things that are, wrong with him, where he can't stand the sight of the cross, he's scared of the cross, he thinks he'll die if he goes in sunlight, he can't enter a room, someone's home without being invited in. They're not actually real, they're all psychological. And to be honest, this is probably the most interesting thing. This is probably the best thing, actually, about this series, where it actually does something different with it. Because to be honest, I can't really think of a, and someone's probably going to point it out in the comments below, so if you do, great. But I can't really think of another series with Dracula where the weaknesses of the vampire are actually psychological. Like, even when Dracula is told, is proven wrong that he will not burn up in the sun, that he still has a fear for it and still has a fear of the cross, and it takes him a second to actually stand in the sunlight. And it's real, it's because he was a coward, unlike his brothers and sons and everything, who all died in battle, whereas he didn't. He always skulked in the shadows, so he was bound there forever, or something along those lines. I don't know, it kind of feels like a little bit shove it all in on the last minute. Yeah, a bit interesting there, and it ends with Dracula finally drinking the blood of the modern day Van Helsing, where she will die, but also Dracula will die because the blood will poison him, essentially. Though they never show it. They don't show it, him dying. They show him drinking the blood, but they don't actually show him die. And there's me wondering, will there be another series of this? Or will it just be a one-off thing? And I think it's all under dependence on how well this series does. Because at the moment I don't know how well it's done with ratings and everything, but I'm guessing that this was written as an intention for it to probably be, a one-off. But if it came an overnight success, there is a little bit a gap for an open window. Though, to be honest, I'm not sure what you would do with a second series with this. Because, to be honest, the only real theme that the series has had is two things. Is that interaction between Dracula and Van Helsing, and also the sort of character arc that Dracula goes through in, the Van Helsing discovering why Dracula, is afraid of this and why he is the way he is. That's basically the only real mystery or arc to this series. It doesn't really have much else going for it other than that. So, my overall thoughts on this series, it's a bit all over the place, to be honest. I do like it more than I initially thought I was going to be honest, but there's something that's a bit out of place, and that's Dracula himself, because in the first episodes, obviously, we're in the late 1800s, and everyone talks and speaks and acts like they're in the 1800s. Apart from Dracula, the way Dracula speaks and generally he acts just like a modern day man. He doesn't really speak in a Victorian-esque way. Basically he speaks in a modern English, with nothing really discernible. And even when we get to present day, um, the when Dracula, starts using words like downloads and mobile phones and stuff, and Skyping, it just doesn't seem odd because he talks the exact same way when he's in a modern setting as he did in the historical setting. So it doesn't really feel any different with the characterization, I mean, other than him changing his clothes to a modern day suit, there's nothing really discernible about Dracula's, the way Dracula speaks and acts in the late 1800s to the early 2020s. So yeah, that was the one thing I did notice that I did find a bit odd. But it would have made sense if he was acting like this now, in the way that he spoke and acts, in a modern way when he gets to modern day. But at the beginning, if he wants to blend in, then really he should really just stick out like a sore thumb, because the way he acts and talks is just completely not of that era. Is completely different to that era. So yeah, it was just a bit weird where all the other characters, are talking in that period terms. He is not. And even when he does say some dialogue that, is from that period, it just doesn't feel right, and that it just feels a bit odd, quite frankly, and his attitude as well is really different. Yeah. But to be honest, again, these are just my initial thoughts on everything. Yeah, let me know what you think on this series. To be honest, I'll be curious to how many people actually did watch it. Because it's one of those things where it is very different. Like, if you're expecting this to be anything like Sherlock or anything that Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss have done before, no, it's not. It is really not. It is very, very different from that, but you can still tell it was written by them, with the way characters talk, but also its sense of humour and that in there. You can still tell that it is written by them. But yeah, those are just my initial thoughts on the episodes, to be honest. Episode 2, I think episode 2 was probably my favourite. And episode 3 was pretty good, though it kind of had a half an hour of focusing on a character I just didn't really like. Yeah, so that's what brought that one episode down. In the first episode, I think it just needed something else to it, to be honest. I think we did need something else in the first episode just to basically justify filling its runtime, to be honest. Yeah. But anyway, that's it, this one, and I'll see you whenever. Bye bye.